EVs and Mexico may seem like an unlikely combination, but here we are. They are growing and growing pretty quickly. It is a new developing market for EVs. Not only do they manufacture a whole bunch of them for General Motors, therefore also Honda and I guess Acura, although those might be made in the US, they are a powerhouse and they are getting ready to start their own domestic brands. We've got 3 stories to cover on this, 2 of them about BYD's difficulties and one about the very real difficulties of making their own homegrown EV brand. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. So we're going to just start with this. Yes, China is withholding approval for Mexico's BYD plant due to tech concerns. This may be overstated. The Chinese government is delaying approval for BYD to build a plant in Mexico amid concerns that the company's smart car technology could be accessed by the U.S., according to the Financial Times. Financial Times, we've used them as a source quite a few times. They're not always reliable. Citing 2 people familiar with the matter, shut up, the London-based newspaper reported on Tuesday that the Chinese automaker require approval from the Chinese Ministry of Commerce to manufacture outside of China, and that approval has not yet been granted. Okay, true, they do require approval. And the fact that it hasn't been granted, I believe, is also true. That doesn't mean it won't be, so why not launch into some wild speculation? They announced plans to open a plant in Mexico in 2023, confirmed it in early 2024, and they said the plant would create around 10,000 jobs and produce 150,000 vehicles. BYD America's CEO Stella Lee has stressed that the vehicles would be only sold in the Mexican market, where 40,000 BYD cars were sold last year. There is some doubt about that assertion. Well, I believe that they would definitely sell to other parts of Latin America, other parts of Central and South America, very likely, maybe even Canada. But the U.S. Would likely restrict BYD on technology reasons before it would do it for anything else. Commerce Ministry's biggest concern is Mexico's proximity to the U.S., one source told Financial Times. Look, I don't know if I believe you guys. The newspaper, 2 sources, also said that Beijing is giving preference to projects in countries that are part of China's Belt and Road Initiative, a global infrastructure strategy. Okay. The tariffs are not helping. Mexican steel and aluminum goods not covered by the USMCA are subject to a 25% tax when entering the U.S., and additional Mexican products, including cars, could be affected when the U.S. supplements reciprocal tariffs early next month on other duties at a later end. Come on. Please don't call them reciprocal tariffs if only one country is doing them. While BYD has said it has no intention of exporting to the U.S., great. The Mexican government denies that Mexico is the transshipment hub, but has nonetheless imposed new tariffs on some imports from China, such as textiles and clothing. They've asserted that their main motivation for imposing new tariffs is to appease the United States. However, the government has also stressed that it prioritizes a trade relationship with the U.S., where more than 80% of Mexican exports are sent. The largest country for EVs being sent into the U.S. is Mexico. It's not even close. Is Mexico being hostile toward China due to U.S. pressure? Unclear. In addition to imposing new tariffs, the government has refused to offer federal incentives to Chinese EV manufacturers planning to invest in Mexico. Of course they would. I don't know if that's interesting. One of Financial Times sources said that Mexico's new government has taken a hostile attitude towards Chinese companies. Yes, but in Mexico, there's term limits on the role of president, and that limit is 1. You get 1 term, and then you are done being president forever, which is great because once you're in, you do not have to pander to the re-election crowd. Every day is different news, so we have to just do our jobs. So yes, here's the timeline. This is great stuff. BYD confirmed its intention to build a plant. They said they would select a location by the end of last year. Maybe they have done that. They told them that there's pressure. Anyway, it's not super exciting, but BYD does expect to sell 100,000 this year. BYDs are gaining momentum in Mexico. China delays BYD factory. So this one goes even further. This one says that they went ahead and talked with a Tesla service center employee who gave them all kinds of information that these are not great sources. So BYD may still be coming online Great. But what we really want to talk about today, and I should mention real quick, I'm going to be in Mexico City in May from like the 13th to, I'm not sure, the middle to the end of May, I think is when I'm going to be there. See if I got on my calendar here. It is the 8th to the 20th of May. So if you're in Mexico City and want to help me out with a story, that would be fantastic. I'd appreciate it. Mexico's first homegrown EV faces a bumpy road. Project Olinia aims to roll out its first model in 2026. That's very ambitious. Can it be done? No. 3 models here. We'll talk about that. They aim to manufacture its first vehicle with almost entirely local components. EV market is expected to grow 25 to 30% annually over the next 5 years. Not an unreasonable expectation. They're starting at a very low number. And budget cuts, limited charging infrastructure, and difficulty sourcing lithium could delay the rollout. So we've got 3 vehicles here: personal mobility, neighborhood mobility, and last mile delivery. All good stuff. They will be safe, efficient, sustainable, and within reach for millions. The first model will be ready for the 2026 World Cup in Mexico City and to the public in 2030. So right there, optimism kind of dissolves. If you're not hitting volume of production, you're not going to get good pricing. Slated to make EVs with almost entirely Mexican components, the Olinia project is touted as the answer to both the government's ambitious goal of 45% clean electricity by 2030 and the influx of Chinese EVs. Faces a number of challenges, including inadequate budget. How much money do you think the government's pouring into this project? Come up with a number and then reduce it by 90% and tell me what that number is in the comments, because I'd like to hear your guess for how much money the Mexican government is willing to pour into this project to get a mass-produced, low-cost, high-volume EV off the ground. It's an interesting concept, but making an EV from zero in Mexico without existing infrastructure is extremely complicated. A local service manager for Tesla, don't interview them. Don't interview them. Who requested anonymity because he was not authorized to speak on the matter. They are doing their best. They're very good at what they do, which is selling cars that they have made. That doesn't mean they know things. When I talk to service center employees, I never, ever quote them, because often they know far less than I do. And whenever I go somewhere and a cyber cab is on display, I invite the employees to ask me the questions, because I know vastly more than they do, unless they have watched my videos, which only a few of them have. It's ambitious, but it presents challenges. It's an important automotive hub, producing more than 3 million cars annually, over 80% of which are exported to the US. It's a growing EV market. More than 5,400 hybrid and electric vehicles were sold in the country, an 80% increase from the previous year. Country's EV market is expected to grow, as we said. So here's the thing about this. The price range they're looking at is $4,000 to $8,000. That's really, really hard to do. Less than half the price of the entry-level BYD. Yeah, it's insane. Even in China, it's hard to get cars at this price, and China is the king, the undisputed king of electric car manufacturing. But while its ambition is big, it is unclear if the project will meet its goals. The government's 2025 budget for technology, science, and innovation is the smallest it's been since 2008. And the initial investment, here we are, folks, I hope you're ready, $1.25 million. Million, not billion, million. That's not enough. It's chump change, says Abe Ashkenazi, a Mexican engineer and chief operating officer at Zero Motorcycles. Yeah, he told the rest of the world, the limited funds will make it hard for Olinia to compete with BYD and other Chinese EVs. Not difficult. It'll make it impossible. It costs more than that to build a prototype. I mean, you can't buy the equipment for that price. You can't build the even if you had a factory, you couldn't tool it up for $1 million. That's mental. A paint shop could cost $100 million. Another roadblock is the limited number of public charging stations. It is a problem. There are not enough. Government should subsidize them. And I would add to that a lot of people do not have access to charging at home necessarily. The administration says that the majority of the parts are made in Mexico, but despite having lithium deposits, they don't have lithium. It doesn't matter. They're not going to be making batteries at scale by 2030. Manufacturing batteries for EVs is extremely complicated. It is a very high-tech endeavor. If they wish to get their batteries in the country, they need to invite a Chinese company to make the batteries. That's just all there is to it. The country hasn't even made lithium at commercial scale because it's locked in clay rather than some of the easier places to get it. It's not just a question of money and access to resources. It's also a question of time. Developing your own vehicle from scratch takes no less than 5 years. Hard agree. There are companies in China that have done it in less time, and the products have been terrible. And again, that's from the kings of manufacturing. Given the technological constraints and limited access to critical minerals, it's going to be challenging. The more feasible option is for it to leverage its trade ties and focus on assembly. Agree. Components and battery manufacturing, while sourcing key inputs from its regional partners. All true, all good stuff. Mexico's got some fantastic factories. They've got some fantastic engineers. What they don't have is experience designing their own electric vehicle. And even if they did, you can't do it for $1 million. That's crazy. No one can. It's not enough money. It is the wrong amount. Are you in Mexico? Do you want to help me out? Give me some pointers, some tips, some ideas. Love to hear them. By all means, reach out any of the ways you can, or just leave a comment. I try to get through all the comments. I'm not always able to. So if you can reach me through Patreon, or my email address is on the About page on YouTube. You can find me. You can DM me on X, do whatever you got to do. I'm trying to keep the stories as diverse as possible. People have said, why are you ignoring Tesla? Why are you covering BYD or a Mexican one? I'm covering Tesla. I'm covering it almost every day. There's got to be a story, or I can't cover it. It's in the meantime, I'm going to cover everything I can that you need to know. And if you like that, you can always support me on Patreon or YouTube or X. Get some bonus content that way. I'm making 5 to 7 bonus videos a week with extra stories, insights, things like that, what have you. And appreciate it. So leave a comment. Like, subscribe, do what you do, and stay tuned, stay juicy. I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots in Mexico City.